must say that I've had some of my happiest times in politics during the last 2 and a bit months in the EFF. The EFF is an incredibly well-organized political party, a revolutionary party. It is a party that is clear in terms of its ideology. And what I love most are the fighters, the ground forces of the economic freedom fighters that are truly concerned about service delivery, about the lives of the people and the communities in which they work. I've never seen this before. A while ago, I went to a meeting in New Clare. When we drove away from the meeting, we saw on the street corner that there was a sewage spillage. The ground forces of the EFF in that area immediately got involved. They immediately managed to get Johannesburg Water to come out the next day. And when I went back there to go and look how work was progressing, I found some of my fellow fighters literally knee-deep in the sewage working with the Johannesburg Water. Now, honestly, I don't know of any other political party, Mubarak, I'm sure you will agree with me, where fighters are so committed and will do that. I come in the past from the African National Congress, and I know how entitled the ANC became. I know how the leadership of the ANC became totally isolated and separated from the people. And I cannot imagine myself, any of those leaders, or even rank and file members of the ANC, getting involved in stopping a sewage spillage and servicing the communities in that way. So this is what the economic freedom fighters in essence is. An organization, a political revolutionary party that cares for our communities, that services our communities, that has a plan on how to service our communities. You know, when you go through the EFF's election manifesto, which is a bulky document, it is 259 pages altogether, you get detailed plans. It is not pie in the sky. And those plans are clearly set out in 33 different chapters. And there is, amongst those 33 different chapters, a specific chapter that deals with the issue of fiscal and monetary framework. So it tells you how the money is going to be found in order to be able to address these issues, amongst which the creation of jobs and the return of the land to the people is absolutely critical. It's been a golden thread. It's been a foundation of the EFF right from its start. But of course, the EFF is very responsive to the environment in which our people live. They understand the suffering that our people undergo because of the mismanagement of Eskom and load shedding. And therefore, the title of our EFF manifesto this year reads, "Our Land and Jobs Now, Stop Load Shedding." And that summarizes the commitment of the EFF to change the economic fortunes of the people in South Africa fundamentally, in its overall ideological network and understanding, but at the same time, it also shows us the immediate responsiveness of the economic freedom fighters to address this critical issue of load shedding that has caused on so many different levels so much harm to our community.
Load shedding is destroying business. I want some business in Gauteng all over. Now, I'm affected, I'm affected with the load shedding. I'm not making money. I can't pay the rent. I can't pay the salaries. Load shedding is disgusting. We can't even think what is happening in the country. How many jobs has been lost? My friends are closing down their commercial businesses. Manufacturing factories are done. They can't even pay the rent. They can't pay the workers. You know, everything is going, it's destroying. It's small business are all finishing. You can go to Krugersloop, you can go to Rodiport, you can go to Lenasia. The business are done. They can't make money because of load shedding. We are going deeper, more down and down. Our economic is done. We need to stand together and change. 30 years now. 30 years is a long time. 30 years is enough. Now we need to change. What we are asking, give us a chance. Let us try to fix whatever damage. Let's fix now. The jobs are, people are suffering. There is no jobs. Load shedding is a bigger crisis in the country. I have a fighter, Kuraysha, with me. I think she wanted to have some words.
Assalamu alaikum. So you're speaking to Kuraysha. I am the minority coordinator for the Johannesburg area for the EFF. To be able to implement that what's currently going on with our infrastructure. So in the past 30 years, what we've noticed that our sewers, our drainage, our electricity, everything has gone up. But what we're failing to understand, look at your billing systems. Your billing system says the exact same amount, including 30% increase. 4 years ago, we've got, I think during the Corona came in, people lost their jobs. People lost their incomes. But the manner in which people are currently paying with their expenses is going high. Also to tap in a little bit in with Palestine as well. We were one of the first parties as EFF. Our CIC, Mr. Julius, brought in the vote count. It was 9 votes, 8 agreed to bring down the embassy. And alhamdulillah, the Israeli embassy was closed down. We took forces, we took procedures, and we did everything we possibly could. So we closed down the embassy. Moving forward, we need to be able to work on another strategic plan on to be able to stop the humanizing of what's currently happening in Palestine. We work towards Gaza. The reason is because South Africa has suffered the same issues what you would say 30 years ago. EFF, and as far as our safety and public, just the other day I think we had an issue that was happening on the highway. It took us less than 5 minutes to get hold of our MMC. And our MMC actually put in a procedure where on the highways they're going to be able to assist. So yes, we've got a lot of ground forces, we've got a lot of assistance. We're changing when it comes to the medical fields. We're changing when it comes to education. Kids in these days, we notice we can't even get placed in schools. We've got members of the EFF is currently assisting me when it comes to placing children in school. We need to understand why is South Africans paying for education. Education is supposed to be free. According to the Madiba Act, no child was supposed to be unhoused and uneducated. So why is it our kids are paying for school fees? People that are domestic workers are paying for school fees. People that are SASA payers are paying school fees. So I can't understand why is our kids not be able to get the rights it was deserved from our South Africans. Over to you, Carl.
The essence of what needs to be done in South Africa, I've always been clear that if we do not address the land issue and we do not actually get expropriation of land without compensation to deal with this issue that the land had been stolen by colonists from the majority of black African people, the indigenous people of this country, there will never be economic empowerment. You see, we need to understand that the foundation of economic empowerment and growth is really the land. And the fact that the majority of black African people are economically disempowered can be traced back historically to the loss of the land because of colonial thievery. Now, the economic freedom fighters is very clear that this historical injustice has to be corrected. But that does not mean the stereotype and the caricature that now everyone is suddenly going to lose the use of the land, and literally, in the phrase that you used, that they will come for your backyard. That is total nonsense. What the economic freedom fighters stands for is that the land will be nationalized, but at the same time, the land will be made available for proper usage and for economic and effective production to all the people in this country, which must include, of course, the majority of Black and African people. And there is a huge problem that we have in South Africa, that even on a conservative calculation, 72% of the land is still in the hands of the white minority. That is an injustice. And in that context, the economic freedom fighters has committed ourselves that within a period of 5 years, 50% of the land must be in the hands of the majority of Black and African people. And that process must be driven by a change in our constitution, an amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution, which is very problematic, because that amendment, Section 25, is really the guarantee of property rights, and those property rights that colonists and whites have. You know, I always use the example, and I think when one uses it, it helps to explain the injustice. If I steal your car, and I go and park it at my house, and you find out that the car is actually parked at my house, and you come there, you find the car there, you want to take it, are you going to take your wallet out and say to me, can I pay you for this car of mine that you have stolen from me? No. If you listen to it like that, you understand how ridiculous it is, that there is no justice in such a system. So the economic freedom fighters has said that we will amend Section 25 of our Constitution to address that injustice. And we will amend it to say that the state, including Parliament, the executive, judiciary, carries an obligation to redress the imbalances of the past through an enactment of laws that will achieve redress and equitably redistribute all resources. So property may be expropriated without compensation only in terms of law of general application for a public purpose or in the public interest. And it's important that that qualification must be understood. You know, if you contextualize the approach that we as the economic freedom fighters have taken to the nationalization of the land, you must understand that land in a place such as the United Kingdom is also considered to be the common property of the state. And then the land is allowed to be distributed for productive usage and for economic development. Now, if that is the case in the United Kingdom, which is not a very progressive, radical society, and all of us know that, why is it suddenly unacceptable for us to have that situation in South Africa? What is wrong with saying that our state, which is a democratic state, which belongs, as we understand it in our constitution, to the people of this country, where government is elected every 5 years through universal franchise, through a democratic process, that this state of ours must be the custodian of all South Africa's natural resources, which includes the land, the mineral resources and the water, and the relevant legislation, we as the economic freedom fighters say, should be passed to clearly define and contextualize state custodianship of natural resources. There's a clear constitutional approach. This is not a land grab approach. This will make sense in terms of economic development. It will make sense in terms of food security. But most importantly, it will empower the majority of people who've lost their ownership of the land to regain control, and through that regained control, which the state must facilitate because the state is the instrument in the hands of the people to redress, to clearly define and contextualize state custodianship of natural resources. There's a clear constitutional approach. This is not a land grab approach. This will make sense in terms of economic development. It will make sense in terms of food security. But most importantly, it will empower the majority of people who've lost their ownership of the land to regain control, and through that regained control, which the state must facilitate because the state is the instrument in the hands of the people to redress injustices of the past, which the state must facilitate in order to give an opportunity to the majority of South Africans to empower themselves, to have access to resources through that land resource and through the wealth of the land, to also get access to financial instruments that will help them to become entrepreneurial, to grow small and medium-sized businesses, and through that process also to gain control over our minerals. You know, one of the biggest and saddest things, not only of South Africa, but of many underdeveloped nations, especially on our beloved African continent, is how our primary resources, how our wealth, which is our minerals, are not developed and enriched in our own countries. We get these primary resources, we get these raw materials at a very cheap rate, exported to the developed nations, and then they get enriched and developed there. And then we have to buy those enriched materials and products back from those developing nations at high cost, and them making the super profits out of our resources. And the economic freedom fighters is very clear, and it is stated unequivocally so in our policy documents, that our mineral wealth must be developed, enriched, and turned into products that will truly serve our communities and also the international community. So there's nothing extraordinary except for a just system that is proposed by our plan of action on land.
Inshallah.
Most definitely. Jazakallah.
Thank you so much. I feel a little bit guilty because the other two members have not spoken that much. Can I perhaps just ask my dear fighter Mubarak if he wants to say a final farewell and perhaps come in?
It's they run out of time. Inshallah, we will do next interview.
Inshallah.
No, even calls available anytime. all.
I think you guys have actually phoned me at midnight, and I did interviews. One, just a quick anecdote. One night, one of you guys had phoned me. I was fast asleep. In fact, it was a couple of years ago. quite a couple of years ago, because it was the time when Chris Hani had been assassinated, and it was a very difficult time for all of us. And I did a long interview.
Wow.
Which the next day my wife said, well, you did a great interview last night, you know. You woke me up while you were doing it here in the bed. I had no recollection of it. What you had was a sleep talker talking to you.
You know, final say I wanted to say that we want to say all the Indian brothers and sisters, they must join EFF. Inshallah, EFF will bring some good changes. You know, we're all making dua that they all must come to join EFF.
And we call on all South Africans. There's a few hours now.
No, especially
few hours to still register.
Yeah,
They
we
must
just got
quickly
about
run
5 hours.
and register online in the next 5 hours. Those who haven't registered, and we call on all our fellow South Africans to vote for the economic freedom fighters. There's no other revolutionary political party that can change the fortunes of the people of South Africa and bring justice to this country other than the economic freedom fighters.
And Carl, CIC say all the Indian whites, they must come and join.
Yes, of course.
I think
CIC had said,
Yes.
the commander-in-chief
especially
said,
he's talking about minority.
the minorities and the majority, we all South Africans, and we all must join the economic freedom fighters.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I mean,
Thank you. And you're going to see how well we're going to do in these elections. After the 29th of May,
we want to take
the EFF will be the government of South Africa. And the CIC will be in the West Wing of the Union buildings as the President of South Africa.